In this video, you are going to learn how to generate counterplay in losing possession and why endgames are considered as a crucial stage in the game of chess. In this video, I'm going to talk about my game that I played against the Grandmaster from the 44th National Team Championship 2025. This Grandmaster in his prime has already played one of the best players in India at that time. Currently his age is around 50s, so definitely his skills have become a bit dull, but definitely his play is very solid. So I'm playing with the black pieces. With the white pieces, he opened the game with 1d4. I replied with knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to c3. We have the Nimzo Indian defense. And now I decided to play the move bishop to b4. I can also play the move d5, which is a very solid way to play with the black pieces. But here, generally, white takes the pawn on d5, e cross g5, and white can simply play bishop g5, queen c2, and maybe generate some attack in the center with f3, e4, bishop d3, knight goes to e2. And that's how white generates a very comfortable position. So instead, at the place of playing d5, I went for the main move, which is the Nimzo Indian defense with bishop to b4. White decides to play the move f3, which is a sideline. I decide to play the move c5, which is one of the way to play with the black pieces in this particular opening. White pushed the pawn. I played the move b5. And all those who are kind of a beginner level players, already they are kind of out of their mind, like why b5? Basically after b5, if white takes the pawn on b5 with the c pawn, I can already capture the center pawn with the knight. And already I'm having a very nice center attacking the knight on c3, and white is already having a double pawn on the b file, which is already pretty comfortable for me. So instead, at the place of capturing c cross b5, white played the move e4. Instead, at the place of cb5, if white tries to capture in the center, I can simply capture with fe6, and if white tries to capture the b5 pawn, saying now that white is a pawn up, but now I can already simply castle up d5, having a nice center. I can even play a6, sacrifice another pawn, and try to generate a huge amount of dynamic counterplay. So that's why that's too risky for white, so white went a very solid approach with e4, with the idea of going e5. So I decided to play the move d6. Now white decides to play the move bishop to d2. If once again, if white try to capture with c cross b5, I can simply take in the center, e cross g5, and I can simply castle up with the idea of a6. And believe me, by sacrificing one or two pawns, you are getting a huge amount of counterplay. So that's the reason after d6, white went for the move bishop to d2. And after bishop d2, this is already a new position for me. So I took around 20 minutes and I decided to play the move b cross c4, because now white simply wants to capture the b pawn with the knight. So I took b cross c4, bishop cross c4, and now I simply decide to castle. Knight to e2, and now I decide to play the move bishop a6, which is actually a best move, and I'm pretty proud of this move. I'm simply attacking the bishop on c4 because currently my bishop on c8 is absolutely doing nothing, so it's better to trade off the c8 bishop with the c4 bishop. So bishop a6, and now we have bishop cross a6. If white tries to play the move b3, takes, and saying that white is having a huge amount of good center control, definitely, but now black can play knight d7, castle knight e5, and you will realize now the c4 pawn is attacked and white is already in big trouble. So that is why bishop cross a6 is the best move. Knight cross a6, d cross e6, f cross e6, knight to f4, attacking the pawn on e6, knight to c7, and now we have castle. And in this particular position, I believe that I was already having like a fine position because I'm having much better control in the center, because I'm already having two pawns in the center compared to white's one pawn. And second reason, I'm having the open f file, which helps my rook to generate a huge amount of counterplay on the f file. So after short castle, I decided to play the move e5, which I believe was a big mistake by me. I should have played the move d5. What is the idea? If white tries to capture the pawn on d5, e cross g5, maybe a3 trying to challenge the bishop, I can simply capture the knight, b cross e3, queen d6, and you will notice that black is having a very strong center control, which is pawns on d file and the c file. Maybe I can simply play d4 in the future, just get the rooks. Definitely these pawns at the same time looks weak, but believe me, the pawns are extremely fine and black is already having a very fine position. Instead, at the place of d5, I decided to play the move e5. My idea was to put this c7 knight on d4, which makes a lot of sense. For example, a sample line that I've calculated was knight d5, I can capture the knight on d5, knight d5, knight d5, e d5, trading off all the minor pieces, and now rook f4, with the idea of playing the move rook d4, attacking the queen and the pawn, and this is an evergreen position for black with absolutely no risk. But instead, the idea that I missed was queen to b3 check, king h8, and the key move that I missed was knight to e6, which attacks the rook and the queen, and now it forces me to trade off the c7 knight with the knight on e6. And now what happens, as there is no knight on c7, now it's pretty hard for me to put any knight on d4. So it's pretty hard to put my f knight on d4. So currently the d6 pawn is just a weak pawn. I played the move knight to h5. Maybe there could be some ideas with knight f4, attacking the queen. Rook to d1, simply centralizing the rook, trying to put pressure on the d6 pawn. I played the move rook to f6, attacking the queen. Queen went back to d5, queen to e8. Because currently white's idea is to simply play bishop g5, which attacks the rook and the queen. So queen e8, bishop to e3, just trying to put pressure on the d pawn. I decide to play the move rook to b8, which according to the engine is a bad move. Engine says that I should have played the move bishop cross e3, b cross e3, h6. And this is exactly what makes engine so unique. It basically allowing rook b1, rook b8, rook b3, trying to get the other rook on the b file, rook g6. This is the exact reason I was worried about to go into this particular variation, because after rook b1, rook d8, simply just allowing white to give complete counterplay on the queen side, allowing white to capture the pawn on the a file, knight f6, queen f7, d5, some weird move, queen trade, take, and in the end position where white is a pawn up, black is absolutely fine. Definitely for humans it's insanely hard, nearly impossible for any human to find, even for Magnus Carlsen. I played the move rook b8, which makes a lot of sense, trying to put some pressure on the b2 pawn. We have knight to e2 finally, trying to move this knight. Now bishop a5, trying to attack the b2 pawn. So b3, bishop to c7, queen d3, and now white's idea is to put the knight on d5. That makes a lot of sense. So now my idea was to simply put the bishop on b8, which defends the pawn on d6 and also defends the pawn on a7. I believe this is a unique idea and I'm pretty glad that I found it. We have knight to d5 attacking the rook on f6. I played rook f7, queen to c4, knight to f6, asking for a knight trade. So Grandmaster denied the knight trade. I played the move rook b7, trying to get the pieces on the queen side. a3, h6, rook to b1, knight to g8. So now my idea is to simply play knight e7, knight c6 with the idea of centralizing my knight on d4. So we have knight to d5, we have a knight trade, rook to d1, and now I decided to play the move g5. And this is exactly what I was talking about, how to generate counterplay in a losing position. To be practically true, I believe this is kind of a lost position for black, because white's idea is pretty simple. He wants to generate counterplay with b4. My d6 pawn is a long-term weaknesses, which I can't really defend. Once white gets b4 in, my black's position is a dead lost position. So now it was time for me to generate some serious counterplay on the king side with g5. My idea was to attack the white king, going for the white king. That makes a lot of sense. White tries to play the move h3, queen to g8, asking for a queen trade, because in the game we had queen a6, but if white tries to trade off the queen, now I'm feeling pretty happy because the queen, the main attacker, has gone, and now I can just play rook b7 and try to consolidate the possession, and black is absolutely fine. So instead, white decided to keep the queens on the board with queen a6, and now I decided to play the move rook f8. Why? I wanted to play the move h5 but h5 is not really available because of bishop cross g5, as I cannot capture the bishop because my rook is hanging on c8. For that very reason, I first decided to move the rook to f8. But I believe a much better move would have been to play the move rook g7, because now the g7 rook defends the pawn, and now I can simply continue the game with h5 g4, which looks like a very strong idea. After rook f8, we have b4, c4, and now rook c1. You realize if I would have played the move rook g7 at the place of rook f8, the c4 pawn would have already been protected. But now I simply played the move h5, queen c4, queen g6, queen e2, going back with the queen. I'm already a pawn down. I went with the move g4, takes, queen cross e4, and once again I simply missed the move rook to c4. Queen h7 takes, and now we have rook f7. After rook f7, I was practically already lost. White decided to play the move h6, which according to the engine is a good move, but I believe the best move would have been to play rook g4. What is the idea? The idea is to simply play the move rook g6, rook h6, and the game is over. But instead, the opponent played the move h6, which gave me some hopes, and now I decided to play the move d5, which is a very strong move in the position. Basically, if white tries to capture the free pawn on d5, I'm having some counterplay with rook f1. If white tries to sacrifice the queen for the two rooks, I believe I'm having a very good counterplay with queen f7 check, and maybe I'm just winning the rook, I don't know. So definitely the position was very crazy at that moment. I'm already playing on seconds. Opponent played the move rook to g4. I went in with d4. Bishop to g5. I played the move rook f2, asking that does white want to give up the queen for the two rooks, which can help me to generate some good counterplay. We have a queen denial by queen to e4, and now I played the move queen to f7. According to the engine, which actually makes sense, is queen e4 the best move. Rook e4, rook to a2, rook goes to f1 because my idea is to simply get in with the other rook. So rook f1, we have a rook trade, capturing on a3, we have a check, taking over here. And somehow, like this position, black is a pawn down, but at least this position is practically possible for black to hold a draw. Maybe, if black plays the best chess. Instead, I played the move queen f7. White played the move bishop h4, attacking the rook. We have a rook trade, king goes to h2, and now I played the move d3. And after d3, personally on the board, I believe maybe some miracle is going to happen because d2, d1, and we have a new queen. White played the move bishop to g3 with the idea of bishop e5, and the game is going to get over. So I played the move queen f5, trying to defend the pawn on e5. White played the move queen b7 with the idea of threatening a mate. I played the move queen f7. Queen goes back, and we have 2 times repetition. And finally, white decided to trade off the queen, which was a blunder. White played the move rook g7, and now you can try to pause the video and try to find the only move for black to hold a draw. This is exactly what makes endgame the crucial stage in the game of chess. Okay, so currently the best move in this position was to play the move rook f8, and if you found this, congratulations. In the game, I decided to play the move e4. So basically, why rook f8 is the best move? After rook f8, my idea is to simply play the move rook d8, maybe just trying to push the pawn. So white have to play the move rook d7, trying to stop the pawn. I can push the pawn now, and now we have a bishop trade. And actually, to be true, black is having 3 pawns, white is having 5 pawns. White is 2 pawns ahead, but these 2 pawns are extremely strong pawns. White has to play the move rook d4, which is actually the only move. Attacking the pawn on e4, black has to play rook e8, king g1, rook c8, king over here, check, check, king h7. White tries to defend the pawn, black can take, and eventually that's a draw. That's the reason why endgames are considered as a crucial stage, because if you have good endgame skills, you can even hold a complete losing position to a draw. At the place of rook f8, I decided to play the move e4, deciding to sacrifice my bishop, which was a wrong decision. Because I believe after e3, I thought, okay, now I'm having 2 pawns on the 3rd rank, and definitely I'm going to make 1 queen. Rook to d7, I played the move d2, and the move that I personally missed was bishop cross a7. This was an insane move. Why? Because now currently white is simply attacking the pawn on e3. So if I try to just push the pawn over here, white is going to play the move bishop to d4 check. I'm having the only square. h7 check, king f8, and white can make a new queen, and that's a mate. So that was the only reason I played another kind of desperate move in the position, which is rook to d5, sacrificing the rook. And now I decided to play the move e2 because after bishop check, now I'm having the square on h7, and that's no mate. So after e2, actually white simply decided to capture the pawn. I made a new queen, rook to d7, simply cutting off my king, and I'm only having a queen against white 5 pawns, 1 bishop, 1 rook, which is completely dead position. I give a check, king h1, I give another check, and now we have bishop to g1. And now I played the move king to g8 with some hopes that maybe it can land in a stalemate. For example, if white tries to push the pawn to h7 check, I can play king h8, and maybe if white tries to move the king with the idea of playing the move bishop d4, I'm having a very strong move in the position, which is queen cross g1, because white cannot take the queen because it's a draw. This was the idea that I was banging on, but my opponent was a grandmaster. He simply pushed the pawn to b5 with the idea of simply making a new queen. I played the move queen to b1, trying to stop the pawn, but now we have king to h2. And after king h2, on the move number 62, I decided to resign the game. Why? Because now white's idea is pretty simple. h7 check, bishop goes to d4, and that's the game over, because now the bishop is no longer pinned and the game is over for me. So this is exactly a game that how Grandmaster plays in the game of chess. My opponent played a very strong chess, but you guys can already realize that if you try to generate, you can actually generate counterplay in a losing position by attacking the opponent's king. Basically, whenever you are losing, try to generate some counterplay, try to look for some counterplay, and you will have some chances in the game to maybe hold a draw or maybe to even win the game. So yeah, this was it. So I hope that this particular video was insightful, must have helped you to increase your chess knowledge. If it did, then make sure to like, share and subscribe. I'm going to come up with these more interesting videos like this. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Oneshot Chess. Bye bye.